I'm just one of the people that are helping out. Jay Barnard started the program. He'll explain it. He brought on Les Livingston, and then I joined. It's one of those pull you into the fantasy world. His partner, Ashley Bocage, they're Bocage. I knew I was going to say that, didn't I? Today, you know what, we got to start off the washrooms, exits first, front and back, in case there is something that happens. Washrooms are down the hall. It's going to go about an hour and a half to 2 hours. There will be time for questions and comments. We want to keep it in an orderly fashion, so if you got something to comment or say, we'll hand you the mic, or you can stand up and ask one of the presenters. Jay will go through what's going to happen today. This is our second session. First one, we had 10 people to talk about an alternate in Kenora. There is something to help the problems we're having and in a humane way, and to get people productive again. So Jay will go through that. Again, rules for today. You got something to say, put up your hand. You'll be no shouting out, please, or comments. There'll be comments at the end. It's for the sake of Kenora and all the communities around us. One thing that will be said, this is for everybody. This is not for the downtown core. This is for people struggling with mental health inside their house on Barsky's Hill, on Valley Drive. It's for everybody. This is not segregated to one nationality. And it's an opportunity for people to know that there's going to be help out there. And part of the issues, I'll call them today, is where they find help. I've joined just to talk at the Nietzsche Friendship Center on occasions to talk about where the businesses are going. So it is being brought out, and some delivery. There's no answers yet. There's no solutions. So if there are solutions, this is one of them as a path forward. And if there's others, things will be recorded. And this is not the last session. It's awesome. We doubled, tripled the amount of the first one. So the more we go forward with it, and the people of Kenora and area, this is not limited to just the people of Kenora. We've got communities around us that are struggling too. So it's a point that it's a problem for everybody. This is one solution, and there may be more. So thought for the day. There is no script for the truth. And this came from Jay. We'll mention them from last night, which I thought was very fitting, from a recovery person down in the States. And he's tried it 3 times, and he's on the road to recovery now of being an addict. So it's time for a change. And on that note, I'm going to hand it over to Jay. He's got some really good things to show you. A shout out to Home TV, who came out to record this, and it'll be put out on their network, or we'll be able to send it to people so they can have a look at what's going on in our community. And again, thank you very much for coming out, taking the time. It's something we need to make a change in Kenora.
Thanks, Andy. That was, I don't know if I need that. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me okay back there? I'm loud. So yeah, my name is Jay. I think everybody knows me. I've been in recovery for over 15 years. And in 2011, I started building my own program from the traditional way of programming. Traditional way meaning AA, NA, all those ways. All those ways work. I support all those ways. But for myself, I didn't see a life beyond recovery. I wanted that life beyond recovery where I could do the things that I wanted to do. Like next week, me and my beautiful wife are going to Mexico. We can go to Mexico. We can do these things, right? So I went and saw a relationship coach, and the relationship coach got me to understand that I needed to have a relationship with myself. I never got that out of the programs, having a relationship with myself, because I didn't even understand what that was. As a person that struggled with mental health, trauma, addictions, and And the addictions weren't just drugs and alcohol. I had all kinds of addictions, from food to sex to porn to gambling to all the above. So when people want to paint the picture that addiction is just drugs and alcohol, that's wrong. You know, I always like to ask, you know, in the room, is there anybody in here suffering with mental health addictions or trauma? Raise your hand. Okay, so generally most people won't put their hand up, right? And the reason most people won't put their hand up is because there's stigma, barriers, and stress around what people are going to think about me. So the thing is that's in our own mind. That's nobody else. Nobody else around here just looked at you and went, you got a problem because you put your hand up. Right? They said, wow, you're strong. You put your hand up because you're dealing with something. So I saw a relationship coach, and at the end of the first month, when she said I had to pay her $1,000 to do this, I was like, oh my God, I got to pay somebody to do something that was very foreign to me. But what I didn't understand was I was making an investment of an interest in myself, which was much different than just showing up at a place. I was actually putting an interest of an investment in myself for myself. And I wanted to be there all the time. I wanted to ask the questions all the time. I wanted to figure out who Jay was. I wanted to figure out who Jay Corey was, because that's who I was born. I wanted to figure out where the trauma came from. I wanted to figure out where the abuse came from. I wanted to figure out why I went to addiction. I wanted to figure out why I drank. I wanted to figure out why I had suicide. I wanted to figure out all of that stuff. And coming out of that, I realized that I had a thinking problem, not a drinking problem. And coming out of that, I figured out that I had a thoughts, a patterns, a triggers, a series of events, and a boundaries problem. So you'll never hear me say I'm an alcoholic or an addict. I'm in recovery. When I used to say that I was an addict or an alcoholic, I lived in the past, which was preoccupied about spent time. That's what past stands for. So I'd always be sitting in the past. If I haven't had a drink for this amount of time, which is over 15 years, and I say I'm an alcoholic, my name's Jay, all I think about is back there. I don't want to think about what's back there. I've already accepted what was back there. I've already moved on what's back there. I've already said sorry and my apologies to everything that I've done back there. Why do I want to stay back there? I don't want to stay back there. I want to move forward in a positive direction. So I say I'm in recovery, living a life beyond recovery. And that is why I've been able to do all the amazing things that I've been able to do. In the early 2000s, it's not a secret, I was a drug dealer and I got kicked out of Kenora for selling cocaine. They kicked me out of Kenora. I moved to Sudbury. So today, standing here, bringing you a recovery program, I'm proud. I'm proud that Judge Frazier gave me a chance in 2008, and he saw something in me before I saw anything in myself. And it gave me the opportunity to go get help in 2008 when I was waiting for help in Kenora. There was no help either in 2008. I had to fly to Ottawa to get help at the Anchorage Boost Center. That was the treatment center that was available. Luckily enough for me, in those 30 days of waiting and using as hard as I did, I never took my life. The story of a lot of people waiting to get into treatment because of the wait lists, people are taking their lives. There's a window of opportunity to get those people help. Everybody deserves help. In my eyes, I don't look at anybody differently. Everybody's the same, right? So I started the journey in 2008 in Ottawa, and my life is bigger than I ever thought it could possibly be, from becoming a Red Seal chef, to running my own restaurant, to being a celebrity chef, to having my own TV show with Ashley, to having my own show. Beautiful daughter, Destiny, who I wish was here today to yell "Recovery rocks" because she knows all about recovery, but she wanted to play with her friend and said the meeting was boring. So, but she did say, she said hi to all you guys. What I want to do is, I want to bring forward, this isn't about the city, this isn't about anything. I have been doing this with Ashley. It did start December 29th when we did do that meeting at the City Hall. And I just went out and said it's about time. I think everybody knows I own Freshwater Cuisine out on Sunnyside Road. I lost that during the pandemic and a lot of money. I worked with a bunch of fishermen. He's one of them at the back there. I did work with him. I figured at that time it was time for the pivot. Position pivot in timing when it went to mental health, trauma, and addictions. from the wait lists to the times to get into places, to find a counselor, to the hospitals, to the institutions, to the backed up institutions, to all of that. What if we could create an online platform where people could do recovery from their house? And that's essentially what it was, and that's what Hype Recovery is. It's help your personal effort. That's what it stands for. Like I said, I started building it in 2011 in my mind. I have to give a big shout out to some people that helped me make this happen, which is Sober Biz Babe Brooke, who's out in BC, Ashley, Bob Ware, who was a lived experience coach with me, where I went to second stage. Sabrina, who has 17 years into recovery, more than half her life. So we all kind of came together and put all this information and stuff that worked for us and is working for people that we work with all across the world. I did that on my 5,000 days in recovery, which was October 18th, 2021, which was a huge milestone. And we launched it to the world, and not just Kenora. And I found people from the UK, the US, all across Canada, Kenora, were reaching out for help. And the reason they were reaching out for help was the fact that there was wait lists. And like I said, that whole thing happening, going on with COVID and all that stuff. But what I found was people were more inclined to work with us because it was one-on-one lived experience. So if you ask me, Jay, what do you have a degree in? Do you have any schooling? I'm going to tell you I have a degree in results. That's what I have. And I have a degree in being a chef. Have I gone to traditional school for any of this? No, I have not. Actually, no, that's a lie. I went to two classes, and then they told me school was going to be another 7 years, and I was like, holy cow, I don't think I can do this. I have to go to chef school. But I did go for early childhood trauma and something else. Anyways, it's not a lot of schooling. My truth and my belief and my love, my passion, my vision, my mission is lived experience. And the reason I say lived experience is because I can get to the level at where people are at. I know what it's like to have a needle in your arm. I know what it's like to commit suicide. I know what it's like to have those thoughts. I just know what it's like because I've been there. So working over the last year and a half, we've had a substantial amount of people call asking for help that couldn't get into treatment centers, upwards of 500 people. Obviously, yes, Hype Recovery Coaching is a business. It was launched as a business. So we have taken on people, but the majority of the people that were calling were the people that were waiting on wait lists to get into town, and that's why I started to go down the other road of looking for funding to bring that forward for people that needed help. I also understood that there was no recovery in Kenora, which there isn't. You know, I know McGeezy's here. I know they're doing some stuff with KCA, which is great. I know that there's a bail beds. That's great. But when you really think about the core issues of what's going on, there's no recovery programming, right? There's none. So that's kind of the back end of it, and the front end of living a dream out to help people. More importantly, living a dream out to help the community and communities. This isn't just about, like Andy said, this isn't just about one person, age, race, nothing. People are suffering in silence all over the area. Barskey's Hill, Lakeside, the kids at Beaver Brae, kids at TA, everywhere. And you know, I think we're at a time right now where we need to really look at this. We really need to come together as a community. We need to start working together from organization side of things. I don't think we need the divide anymore, because divide is not helping people. I think when we come together, and that's why it's working for us, is we've brought a big group of people together, and togetherness is we, it's not me, and it seems to work better. So like Andy said, this is our second meeting. We had 10 people out. I'm proud that there's triple. You know, I'm proud. That means that people are interested in something, right? So,
hi everybody. I've never public spoke, so this is like, I'm really nervous, so please,
well, you're going to be on the big stage in front of 1,000 people.
Yeah, that's crazy. So I'm Ashley. I want to thank everybody for being here today. This means a lot. We started out with 10, and here we are, so thank you. I started my journey probably in 2019. I went to treatment. I lasted 90 days, and I drank about it. because I still thought I could control the outcome of drinking. I didn't admit I was an alcoholic, and I relapsed. I went back into recovery. I met Jay when I was about 5 months clean, and I was a spinning tornado. I am a people pleaser by nature, and I've learned that about myself over the years, and I wanted to do everything that anybody had ever suggested to me. I started out in AA, you know, and it got me standing on my feet, which is a fantastic thing, and I appreciate and respect it. But there's a lot of people, old timers they're called, who will give you suggestions. And so I wanted to do every single one of those suggestions, and I couldn't figure out where to start. Couldn't understand why people got sober, and I couldn't understand where to go. So I met Jay, and Jay was a sparkly, shiny, happy-go-lucky guy who I didn't actually even know who was. I think I hurt his ego a little bit when he goes, "You don't know me?" So he kind of, I learned young in recovery that you will be attracted to somebody else's recovery. You will want what they have, and it's true. I wanted what Jay had. Our relationship started just solely on recovery. Our recovery comes first. To this day, our recovery comes first, and then our relationship, and so on and so forth. You know, I was a very broken human being. I've done a lot of work on myself. I've learned that what my worth is. I've learned how to love myself. I can look at myself in the mirror today. I was a mom who I lost my children. I had very good people in my life who loved me enough to make those decisions for me to make sure my children were safe. You know, I think about the moms out there today who struggle like I did and don't have that option, who are too scared to come forward because they're scared to lose their kids. You know, this program, which I have done, which, you know, we are where we are because of it. I want to give that to other people. I want all people to have this opportunity to be here. Maybe not up here, but to be up here, to be able to be proud of who they are, to be able to move forward. You know, my girls, they're so brave. And I want other people to have that. You know, my girls and I have the best relationship today. They're my best friends in the whole entire world. And I would do anything for them. You know, there was a point that I didn't know one day if I was going to wake up, if I was going to be able to be here. You know, never in a million years did I ever think my life would come here. You know, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. I'm nervous and scared of this shit, but I'm proud of that. You know, and I want other people to have that. You know, Jay was a very patient, loving, kind person who has really, really let me grow into who I am. I'm the one who did the work, and he will never take that from me. I'm the one who's done the work. I went through those hard times. I pushed through those hard times, but I understood how to do that. You know, I understood that because I had somebody who had lived experience, and I felt comfortable. I felt I could open up to him because I know he has been through what I have been through. Our stories are not the same, but we all have that common, not goal, but we have that commonality where we have lived experience. I see people in here I know who have lived experience as well, and that makes me so incredible. And you can understand, you know, what I'm saying. You can understand that, right? Not many people put their hands up, and I understand that, but we all know somebody who has addiction or family members or trauma. It's a community-wide, you know, epidemic. You know, we see the people on the street, but we don't see those people behind closed doors. We don't see, you know, our coworkers, our friends, our neighbors, and so on, that who are struggling, you know, that have nowhere to go. And I want people to have this opportunity to be able to move forward in their lives. Everybody deserves a good life, whatever that looks like to anybody. You know, I've worked with people in addiction, mental health and addiction. I work with vulnerable people, and I want everybody, like I've said, to have that. I want to thank everybody for coming today. I very much appreciate you, and here I am today, up in front of a whole bunch of people, which I never thought I would do. So that's my story. Thank you very much for listening, and yeah.
So that right there was probably the first time Ashley's done that. Now she's done it on camera and she's done it all the way and all that stuff, but when you get in front of people, it's a much different approach. So that's a person that, you know, was a spinning tornado when I did meet her. It was all about recovery. The connection was lived experience. That's what the connection was. It was, I know where you're at, I know what you're doing, I know what you're going through. Here are some tools and resources that I've used, and help with all kinds of people. Do you want to try it? And she said, yes. When you say yes, that's the first start to surrender. So once you're able to surrender and able to do things, that's exactly what comes out of it. Has Ashley done all the work? Yes, she has. Do I take credit for it? No, I don't. Ashley has done all the work. Ashley asks the questions. Ashley works through her stuff. And Ashley gets the success in her life today because of the fact of her doing that. Because there was an alternative way for recovery for her, because she found me, right? And because she found Hype Recovery, there's an alternative way, there's different pathways, there's different solutions. So that's one story. Cal said he's going to come on in 2 minutes. So a little bit about Cal. I talked about him a little bit already, but he is an enforcement in BC. Do you guys have any questions for Ashley? Do we want to do that quick while we wait for Cal? Yeah.
Who does she work for?
Who? Ashley?
Yeah.
Ashley works at?
Right now, I work for Kenora Association for Community Living. So I work with people who have intellectual developmental disabilities.
Community.
Pardon me?
I didn't hear you.
Kenora Association for Community Living.
Okay.
And I also work at Morningstar Detox Center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Yep.
How long was it before you were comfortable to be able to give your story?
It took me a while, but my thoughts are into this day, and that's why I got up here, is that I want change. I have to be able to help with the change, right? And it's scary, like I'm still shaking because of it. But if I can't, I want people to know it's okay to talk about it, you know? And it's a scary thing, because scared people are gonna judge you, and they couldn't, and that's okay. But, you know, I've had many people reach out to me privately through our Shaw, through my video, and you know, people have thanked me for it. Not everybody's ready, and we can't save everybody, but you know, the people that are ready, you know, here we are. Here's an alternative to help people, right? So I just did it. I just did it because I want change, and I want people to be okay.
Just one more question.
Yes,
How come I've never heard of this before? So I am a recovering addict.
Yeah.
I am 2 months sober, sober all of last year. I live in Bel Manor, so we're at home. I was recently on CBC National News speaking about myself. How come I've never heard of this before? How come I never saw advertisement for this meeting today? I just found out at 10:30 this was going on, and I was like, I want to be there.
So thank you for coming. Congrats on the two months. That's massive. We are all, yeah, come on in. Oh, hi, I know you. Sally! So we are wildly all over Facebook. So if you do go look Hype Recovery Coaching up, you'll see Hype Recovery Coaching. You will see Ashley and I everywhere, so if you do follow us on Facebook or any social media sites, we are wildly out there. That sign out there got over 40,000 views on all of our social media sites in the last 2 days. I'm not really sure how you never got to see that. I don't know if you're on Facebook or...
Not really, no.
Okay, well there's one reason. Right, but we
Put flyers down.
we did put flyers. Me and my young friend here went and actually talked to some businesses downtown, and oh, there he is, Kate Cal. Hey buddy, how you doing? I'm right here.
Morning, folk. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? I'm
I'm doing pretty well.
I'm really happy that you gave me some time because you know that I appreciate you and what you're doing. Would you be able, I know your time's valuable, so I just kind of want to, I don't want to cut to the chase, but I want to, can you just talk a little bit about what's going on in BC from like say decriminalization, safe supply, harm reduction, safe injection sites, what you see going on there, and then talk a little bit about Kids Play. Cal is also speaking at Empower to Recover, so I'm going to get into that later. He's also done a phenomenal TEDx talk series, right? He's done a phenomenal TEDx talk. Believe it or not, Cal and I have never met. We were to meet in BC when we were there for recovery days, but I really love the work that Cal is doing when it comes to Kids Play and all of that stuff. So if you want to just introduce yourself and kind of talk a little bit about the BC scene as to where you see that, and then a little bit about Kids Play, and then be the man.
Yeah, sounds good, Jay. But before I get started, so who's joining us today? Just very quickly.
It's just a bunch of people from the public that we put on this RISE. It's called Recovery Information Sessions to Educate. So, you know, you've known me for a while now, and the recovery that I do and what I want to do and where we want to go and how I'm bringing in all kinds of different people from all across Canada for this. We know that it's not just a Kenora thing, but I am stationed in Kenora, and this is where my life is, and this is what I love. I want to, you know, help save Kenora. So we've tripled in numbers from our last meeting, which is amazing. So we went from 10 to, I think there's probably 30 in here. So that's great. Yeah, so that's who's in here.
Oh, right on. Okay. Well, first of all, good morning to everybody. It's around 9:30 here on the Pacific Coast. But in terms of the questions that you're asking and what you want me to explain, I need to put it into context. So I'm coming into my 23rd year in law enforcement. I'm currently a detective, but I spent 15 years operationally, and the majority of that time was spent in the downtown east side. And when we talk about drug addiction and recovery, so forth, and crime being directly correlated with that, I saw it all firsthand. But what probably bothered me the most is that I would see young kids that were entering the open air drug market in the downtown east side, and these kids would be engaging in crime regularly. And when I say young kids, we're talking about ages 15 to 17, even younger in some cases. So we'd be apprehending these kids and pushing them through the criminal justice system. And it was bothersome because I just felt that these kids, more could be done for them. The majority of these kids came from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, poverty, welfare families, subsidized housing, and they had never been afforded opportunities. But here we were arresting them, pushing them through the criminal justice system, throwing them into the youth detention center, only to throw them back on the streets to re-engage in that perpetual cycle of violence. And as an officer, there was, I mean, to some degree, you feel helpless because everything's part of the system. And the system, as far as I was concerned, there were parts of it that were broken. I think personally, we should have been taking these kids and providing them positive resources, role modeling, mentoring, and putting them on a different path. And so there was a couple of incidents that happened in the downtown east side, which eventually, the totality of it all culminated in me approaching my department and saying, hey, look, time out. I think these kids could use a lot more resources and support from us. We're first grassroots level responders. I think we see everything firsthand, and we are also in a position to make the most difference and impact in their lives. And so that's where I started running programs for inner city kids on my own time, on my days off, with some nominal funding from the department. And it made a huge difference. These same kids that would have been heading down the criminal path, using drugs, selling drugs in the downtown east side, all of a sudden we're now getting support that they needed. And so that they were engaging in positive constructive outlets such as extracurricular educational opportunities, such as sporting opportunities. And so those outlets were what these kids needed to portal away from the downtown east side to becoming responsible, productive citizens of society and responsible adults. But when it came to the drug addiction issues down there, like, I have to be honest with you, Jay, I was tremendously naive when I first arrived down there, because you have to understand, like, there's somewhat of a us versus them mentality. Like, police officers, we're law enforcement, our responsibility is to put on the uniform to arrest people. And drug addiction was not necessarily perceived as a chemical dependency where these people need medical attention. It was seen as these guys are junkies that commit crimes to support their drug habit, and our responsibility and capacity goes as far as just apprehending them once they committed the crime, throwing them to the system. Well, what difference does that make? Then how are we essentially helping that person? Because it's not like their drug addiction is just going to disappear. Even when they go to jail, granted, I mean, there's recovery that happens on the inside, but as soon as they're released, they're back on the streets again. And so they're going to head back to square one. And so I think there needed to be some kind of more entrenched, more fundamental grassroots level policy which helped these people heal on the streets even before it got to the point of them being apprehended and going to jail or committing crime to support their drug habits. It just took me a while to get that, and ended up meeting a lot of amazing people along the way who were drug addicts, and some of them who I was able to personally help out and get out of that lifestyle. But I'll be honest with you, the safe injection site, when I first opened up in the downtown east side, a lot of pushback, lots. The public didn't accept it. law enforcement sure didn't accept it, but we had no choice because it was a federal government policy which was supported at the provincial and city level. And so, but if you think about how crazy of a concept that was at that time in a very conservative society where you had this site where individuals will be monitored by professional medical staff while they use their drugs. And if they overdose, and they can receive medical attention immediately on the spot. Logically, rationally, it makes complete sense because otherwise they'd be ODing on the streets and there's nobody there to save them. At least now they're doing it under supervision. But like I said, it was just the whole concept was so new at that time. And I don't think people were ready to readily accept it. And so it took a little bit of time. But just seeing where the overdose rates have gone recently, like I personally know drug dealers that were operating in the downtown east side that would open up with me all the time. I mean, obviously these were predatory drug dealers. We both knew which side of the fence they were on, so there was nothing for them to hide. It was just a matter of cat and mouse before they got caught. But they were very open. And they said, you know what, we have no choice but to lace the drugs with fentanyl because we want to give that extra high that keeps our clientele base hooked and keeps them coming back. Because if they don't lace their drugs with fentanyl, somebody else will. But what ends up happening is the hardcore drug addicts that we're using regularly, sometimes their systems would absorb it, sometimes it wouldn't. And so you'd still see some overdoses amongst that demographic. But the majority that were hit were recreational users whose systems were not prepared for the fentanyl that's laced in these hardcore illicit drugs. And so overdose rates skyrocketed here, and not just here, I mean all across Canada for that matter. And so that trend is still continuing. I think the cartels, South American and Central American cartels have now shifted their focus to fentanyl, where they're introducing a lot more fentanyl into their products. And so in that respect, it's a scary concept because I don't think this overdose rate is going to come under control anytime soon unless we take some extreme measures. But one of the extreme measures that they're considering and have implemented since then is the decriminalization of a small amount of drugs. And what happens with that, only time will tell. Statistics is going to have to prove that, and data is going to have to prove that legislation actually works.
So, in your 23 years, is BC about the worst you've ever seen it, or no?
Yeah, absolutely. The downtown east side was not like this, man.
No.
Like when we were working in the east side, it was just, obviously, I mean, there was going to be mass amount of chaos, decay and destruction down there because it's considered one of the most violent areas in all of North America, let alone Canada. And within a 6 to 7 block radius, you have extortions, assaults, kidnapping, shootings, stabbings, prostitution, drug addicts, drug dealers, like high profile, organized crime, gangsters, like everything that you could potentially think of, it was there. Like it was Gotham City at its worst. And so in that respect, it was bad. But nonetheless, we were able to keep a cap on it, right? It was a boiling pot where we could put the cap on it, and it was still under control. Within the last 4 to 5 years, it has just blown up. I'm sure you've seen the encampments that have been happening out there, and there's literally tens of drug overdoses that are happening daily in the downtown east side, daily. And so yesterday I was rolling through the area, and I saw mass amounts of traffic in the lanes in the downtown east side where there's still lots of dealing going on. So if anything, it's just we're going to need some tremendous amount of resources injected back into the area if we're going to deal with this adequately.
Okay, what's your thoughts on recovery and how that can help somebody heal? I mean, you know my story and what we're trying to do on our level. How do you think that would work for people that are struggling out there? And then I don't know if you're okay to take a couple questions if some people have some questions. I know you're a busy guy, but what's your thoughts on recovery and that approach?
It's essential. You know what? It's whoa.
So recovery
What are-
meaning the fact that, I mean, you've watched me and you see the programming we do, we've had some talks about, so the lived experience side, I guess I'm getting at. So from a lived experience side, myself being somebody that has had struggles, had been in addiction for many, many years, doesn't have the traditional schooling when it comes to helping people, right? Say counseling or whatever that you want to say. From the lived experience side, because this is what is kind of moving forward in some areas, is that lived experience people are starting to come to light and help people in a way that they can get to their level and help them get out of what they're getting out of because they can relate. What do you think about that approach and that solution and pathway forward to help people?
You know what, Jay? Like I said, it's just I don't see any other recourse. Because the thing is, like, what are other options? Like, to jail people, right? I mean, it's like when they continue using drugs, it's not sustainable financially, right? It's just, what are they going to do to supplement? They are going to have to commit crime. There is no other ways about it. It's not like you're going to work for a living 9 to 5 so you can support a drug habit. It doesn't work like that, right? So they are going to commit crime to support drug habits. And if we think about it, so where should our priority be? Is it apprehending these individuals and throwing them in jail for committing crime when we know that there's a deeper rooted issue there? Or should our first priority be providing them the help, the assistance, and the medical attention that they need to break that drug cycle and become productive citizens of society so they can be working that 9 to 5 job and giving back to society, right? And my thought process has always been, hey, help heal first. Right, be your brother's keeper, and I've always extended the olive branch. At first I didn't. When I first arrived in the downtown east side, I'll be very honest with you, because it was an us versus them mentality. Once again, because they were junkies that were committing crime, and my job was to arrest them and throw them in. Over time, as you begin to understand the complex scenario and the different dynamics that are involved, you begin to humanize these individuals, because everybody has a story. Everybody has a set of circumstances which led them down that path in the first place. It's our responsibility to understand their story and see where they're coming from. And I think that's going to be a combination of mental health counseling. It's going to be a combination of providing them the proper recovery through medication and helping them reintegrate back into society. So there's going to be multiple steps that are going to be involved.
Awesome, great. Does anybody have any questions for Cal? I know he's a busy guy, so if you have any, you mind taking a couple questions? Yep. Yep.
How do you defeat the stigma that most addicts and street people have that police are the enemy? So from my experience, a lot of people would look at them and say, oh, they arrest me or they're going to catch me doing something. I don't want to go seek help or speak to them if they come to me. What do you do that helps to destroy that stigma amongst them so that they can feel comfortable to come up to an officer and ask for help, or tell them when something wrong is going on around them that should be snuffed out?
Well, it's the officer's responsibility. I think, you can't take a look at a law enforcement agency as a collective whole. You have to take a look at the individuals that you're dealing with. I think the great thing about walking as a beat patrol officer in the downtown east side was that I wasn't rotated into different areas. I was always there. So I got to know the people. I got to know the area. And you build rapport and connection that way. And so when these people see you day in and day out, and you seem like a legitimate, sincere individual that authentically cares about them healing and getting better, that person will turn to you. And I, as an individual officer, made that a point of extending that olive branch and saying, I'm here to help. I'm not just here to arrest you or throw you in jail. I legitimately care, and I want to help you out. And so I think, true to my statement, is I created some 6 degrees of separation with the department by creating Kids Play Foundation back in 2015. It's a nonprofit that operates completely independently of the police department. So despite the fact I'm an officer on the job, at the job, outside of that, I'm with Kids Play. So it's got nothing to do with policing and more to do with good, positive role models that are out there to provide resources and support to help people heal and get better.
Great. Anybody else? Yep.
There's a documentary out there called Vancouver is Dying, and the narrative that we hear about safe injection sites is if we have a safe injection site, if we do harm reduction, we'll see a reduction in crime and a reduction in overdoses. But what that documentary says, and correct me if the stats are wrong, is that crime in Vancouver, homelessness, addiction, overdoses is all increasing. Also in the documentary, they interview recovered addicts. There's about 20 or 30 people in the room, and every single recovered person in that room says the only reason I recovered is because this didn't exist. If I was provided a safe supply of drugs, I never would have gotten clean. So if that's incorrect, I'm just really confused, because we want, I support like recovery, yes, way more resources into recovery. I'm 100% on board, the kids programming, amazing. But when I hear the things about the safe injection sites and the safe supply, when people ask, what's Vancouver doing that's working, Vancouver's never been worse. And that's where I get really confused.
I hear you. Sorry, what's your name?
Carla.
Carla. Yeah, Carla, I hear you. And these were some of the concerns that we were raising at the time when the safe injection site first arrived in the downtown east side. And we said exactly those things that you're saying now. It's like, do you really think that this is going to shift the tide? And because the thing is, at the end of the day, what are we essentially doing here? We are positively reinforcing that behavior to some degree and re-engaging them. Whereas the staff, the medical staff at SIS, Safe Injection Site, might beg to differ, primarily on account of the fact they can say, well, you know what, we have counselors here that provide the resources and recovery support for the individuals that are seeking it. But on the one hand, you're providing them all this. On the second hand, you're providing them support. So, you know what? It's there's two schools of thought on this. One thing, like, it's just, in order to get somewhere, you have to start somewhere. And maybe that was a start. It allowed us to initiate the conversation and dialogue, and it tells us what works and what doesn't. And then we just simply need to ratify and establish new programming and policies, perhaps. And so you can see that the provincial government is now, federal government, sorry, is experimenting with decriminalization of small amounts. That's another step that they're taking in the fight. And so it's a very complex problem. I think that's going to require multiple variables in the equation to deal with. You'll never solve it. I'll tell you that much right now for a fact. There's no way. As long as there's drugs, there's always going to be demand, 100%. And so in that respect, it's just a matter of how do you control the situation to some degree, because you're not going to be able to control it completely.
Anybody else? Yeah?
Okay, you say safe injection sites. That's a start of it. Where do you go from there? Is there going to be treatment centers in the future and followed by transition facilities for these people?
Sorry, Jay, she's breaking up. I can't hear her.
So she was talking about safe injection sites and how that's going to look, and if treatment centers. So I guess what it is really going from so essentially right now it's like a safe needle, like an exchange needle program going on here to whatever the next step is for us here. But I would suspect that in BC they have the safe injection site with proper counselors, proper people on site to direct to whatever organization is willing to help in the trauma, mental health, and addiction side, from the counselor level, lived experience level, to the medication level, correct?
Yeah, it's a wraparound response. That's what they say. So it's a 360 all-encompassing response where it's not just one aspect that they provide. So they provide the counseling, the recovery, and they provide other resources and support. And they're able to triage individuals into different facilities. So that's what they're claiming. I haven't peeled back the layers and taken a deeper look into it. I can just tell you what I know. But like I said, it's a complex problem. It's not just going to be one thing that's going to be the solution. And so is the answer introducing more safe injection sites into Vancouver? I don't know. But I can tell you one thing for a fact. It's like you are going to need. One thing that I've said for the longest time is you cannot congest everything into the downtown east side. The city will not move the SROs out of the downtown east side. They've congested all the single room occupancy buildings into the downtown east side. So a lot of these SROs are run by societies which focus completely on drug addiction and mental health issues. So there's nowhere else for them to go. And the downtown east side has become a breeding ground for drug addicts and gangsters and drug dealers and all of them converging on this one point. But they could spread it out across the city, but the problem is, you try spreading it out in other parts of the city, those residents take up arms. Like they tried moving one of these facilities into the west side of Vancouver, and there was people actually sending death threats to councillors and city staff saying, if this happens, and there's going to be serious consequences. So point being is that everybody's saying not in our backyard. And so everything ends up coming into the downtown east side. And I think that part of that solution is also going to be is you're going to have to move some of these resources out to places where the drugs are not readily accessible.
Nice. Anybody else for one question? Then Cal's probably got to get going.
What drug is given at the safe injection site, and how do they know that perhaps the person receiving that drug hasn't already taken something, so you're double dosing, or perhaps they will take something on top of it when they leave the safe injection site?
Yeah, once again, these are all great questions, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know, because those are their internal policies and nothing that's been exposed to us. Safe supply, it might be one arm of the safe injection site, but at the time when safe injection site first started, they didn't have a safe supply program. Their primary responsibility was to provide medical attention and supervision to individuals that are using in a monitored environment, and that was it. And then they started introducing recovery and counseling and other programs into safe injection sites. So I've seen it evolve over the years. Whether they merge the safe supply program into the safe injection site now, I'm not sure to what degree and exactly what their internal requirements are for monitoring these individuals with respect to the double dose issues and so forth. So I'm sorry, I can't provide any more information on that.
Just one more
Yeah,
question.
one more, Andy.
Cal, how many people did it start on the east side to what it is today? So,
I'm sorry, how many drug addicts were down there?
yeah, how many people?
Yeah, basically how many people were using down there, and then how did it get to the population it is at today?
Approximately.
That's a big number, I know.
Yeah, man. It is, because I mean it was bad back then too. Don't get me wrong, like it was bad back then too. There was lots of users, but you got to keep in mind it's like obviously the population has been compounding over the years, where you still see some percentage of the population down there that was down there back in the day when I was there. And so, but not to the same degree. So essentially, you're just substituting the old ones with the new ones that are coming down there. But that seems to have blown up by tenfold. And it seems that way to me. But you also got to keep in mind, the downtown east side is a limited space. There's only so many SROs. And so when all the SRO rooms are taken, where are people going to go? If they're going to go into encampments. So if anything, if there's been any indicator how times have changed, as you can see, these encampments have grown huge, massive. They took over Oppenheimer Park at one point in time. I'm not sure if you guys recall that or not. And now they transitioned over to these, when Oppenheimer got a court injunction, they transitioned over to the sidewalks in the downtown east side. And these encampments were removed recently from another court injunction. So question becomes, like, the people, by decamping them, where are they going to go? Like, it's just, there's no space in the downtown east side. So that's where the problem is, like, more and more people are showing up. In terms of exact numbers and how many, it's difficult to say. It's constantly transitioning.
I have one really quick one, it relates to that. Are you finding that the people, it's not just people from East Vancouver that are, becoming drug addicts and staying there? Are you finding that it's people moving into that area, like going to the drug supply, that the numbers are doubling and tripling and blowing up? So it's not just Vancouverans, or however you want to call them, but people moving into the area.
So people that do not in the area coming in?
like transient people coming from, say, Surrey, Kelowna, all these different places inside. Are they like all kind of moving to the east side? Like they don't have their own separate little hangouts for where they use or what have you? They just kind of move to the east side. Now those numbers are going up higher because it's like the place to go kind of thing?
Sure, of course. Right, like there's two types of streams there. There's one where there's people that do live in the Lower Mainland that just commute to the downtown east side for the sake of their drug supply, and then they go back. So Surrey, Abbotsford, Coquitlam, Burnaby, some of these areas where they just come in, grab their supply, and they head out. So you have that stream. And that stream also entails a lot of just regular working people that use recreationally, and that's where a lot of the overdoses are being seen. And then the other stream is individuals that have come from all over BC and Canada, that the weather here is mild and less temperamental, so they because of the weather and because they can't afford to live in a place, so they end up camping out and staying in the downtown east side. So you also have that stream. So yeah, it's a fairly significant number of individuals that are coming from outside of the downtown east side, inside. There might have been sufficient resources and housing in terms of SROs before, but as the population booms down there and more people are coming down, more homeless population, more drug addicts, more drug users, more individuals with mental health issues. Yeah, it's becoming a serious concern and problem.
Okay, one more quick one.
Yep.
Cal, with regards to the safe injection site, you talked about how long it's been in Vancouver and how things have gotten a lot worse. And we're obviously, as members of the public, seeing things, a lot more addiction right across the country today, everywhere. Our town has been discussing the possibility of a safe injection site, and what you told us earlier is that you can't say the safe injection site has helped or has possibly made it worse because there is a lot more downtown now in East Hastings. So, you know, the people in this meeting, you know, some of the people in this meeting are just concerned about the town, about the people who have addictions and want to see help for them. But we obviously want to see help in the right way if possible. So I guess my question and my comment is with regards to the safe injection site, so you can't say it's actually helped for sure, correct?
Yeah, I'm not insinuating by any means that it has not helped or helped. I don't have the metrics and the statistics for it. I wouldn't be able to tell you that. I mean, I'm just going based on how the public and law enforcement felt when they first arrived. There's two schools of thought with respect to the success of that program. You have some that swear by it, the academics, the medical community, that are saying, hey, great idea, it works, here's the stats. And then there you'll have actual drug users that'll come out of it and say, you know what, this just made the problem worse, right? So you have people with different opinions on the matter that are going to back it up with their own personal experiences, anecdotes, or statistical data. And so it's extremely difficult to say what measure of success is when it pertains to the safe injection site. But at the end of the day, like I said, the solution is not just going to be that. There has to be a combination of different variables that are going to need to come together to deal with this issue, because a lot of the individuals that I saw on the east side that were using, it's not just on account of their personal circumstances. There's huge mental health issues. People with schizophrenia, bipolar, anxiety, depression, that are not receiving proper psychiatric care for their medical issues. And so they use drugs, self-prescribed drugs, to deal with their medical issues. And how scary is that, where you're dealing with schizophrenia by using coke? Like, it's just, it makes no sense. And so that's where we need to realize that there needs to be a all-encompassing response that hits it from different angles.
Thank you.
Okay, beautiful. Thanks for your time. I know you're a busy guy. Thanks for asking all those questions. I can't wait to see it in BC when you rip up the stage there and cover. And thanks for taking the time to share with us today.
All right, take care, Jay. Bye.
Okay, so that's Cal. I thought that was important to kind of bring in that aspect of things so that you guys can have a little bit more of an understanding of what's going on in BC. That's the truth that, you know, he's telling you and what he sees. So he is right. It has to be encompassing. We have to be open to all different things. We don't have to just go in one way. We have to be open to change, right? So next up is about the program. So I just want to kind of touch on the program and what we do. The program, I started thinking about the program in 2011. It kind of morphed as I started being a motivational speaker across Canada. I was kind of scared to talk about the program because people looked differently at me because I was recovering differently. So they'd point their finger at me and go, I'm not recovering. You're not doing recovery right. You aren't doing this, which was the reason I wasn't doing any of the AAs, NAs, or any of those, which I don't have a problem with because that's what got me my life. But because I took a different route and decided to try something different and jump out of the box of recovery and be the best version of myself, people looked at me differently. So I didn't have the confidence yet, or didn't have the, I won't say ambition, because I always have ambition, but I didn't have the confidence yet to really say, hey, listen, I've created something. This is what's working for me, because people would always ask me, what are you doing? What are you doing? You always look happy. Why are you getting all these great things? And there was a piece of me that, fear, false evidence appearing real. That's what fear stands for. There was a whole bunch of fear left inside of me saying that people are going to look at me and go, oh, Jay's just bullshitting, all that stuff. I didn't take the complete ownership yet of what I was and what I wanted to be until I started helping people. And once I started helping people and see the change, because I saw the change in myself, but once you start seeing the change in other people, that's what's phenomenal. That's what I live for. I live for people like Wayne changing. I live for people like Ashley getting a life. I live for people like Leland getting a life. That's what I live for because I know I can do it. So if I can do it, they can do it. They just got to get shown the path, the right direction, and be there for them. So I started opening up about it while I was motivationally speaking all across Canada, and people were kind of starting to listen. Why doesn't he talk about, you know, he's an alcoholic? Why doesn't he say he's an addict? Why does he say he has a thinking problem? Why does he say he has a thoughts problem? Why does he say he has a patterns problem? Why does he say he has triggers? Why does he say he has a series of boundaries? Why does he say, you know, boundary issues? And that's really what I deal with, right? I deal with a thinking issue, which leads me to my thoughts, which leads me back to my patterns, which my patterns are in the past, which then leads me to triggers. And then I'm just looking for an excuse to go use. That's it. I'm looking for an excuse to take me out, to get me out of my mind. That's all I'm looking for. So that's going to land me into a series of events. I'm going to go back in the past and look at the series of events that affected me. So I'm going to go there and put myself there because it feels comfortable. Now my boundaries are gone. So what am I going to do? What I know best, which is go use. But the thing about a relapse is the end result of a relapse is the actual physical using part. You actually relapse way before you actually pick up. So it's a mental thing, right? You're planning out the using. You're thinking about it. You stub your toe, whatever the case may be, right? But you got to identify those things. And that's what the program is. The Journey to 30 is 6 weeks. The reason I call it the Journey to 30 is because I see a lot of 30-day programs. They're great programs, but it's only 30 days, and at 21 days, your system's kind of cleaned out. And then you're like another 7 days into programming or trying to figure out where you are, try and get your place, and then all of a sudden you're graduated and now you're on back out. You know, I don't think that a person in recovery graduates from anything. I think they transition, right? You transition to evolving, you transition to changing, you transition to be a better person. You know, when I say the word graduate, I just think about the past and what that associates it with. So I'm always transitioning to be a better person. I'm always transitioning to change myself. I'm always transitioning to present myself better. I'm always transitioning to be the man that I'm supposed to be. I'm always transitioning to be a better role model for Destiny, who keeps calling me 10 times. I transition to be, right? So our Journey to 30 is 6 weeks. We did start it online and had great success online, bringing down the barriers and stress because I knew the wait times for treatment. I knew the wait times for all that stuff. So we had people coming from all over the place, USA, UK, all over the place. The Journey to 90 is 12 weeks, which gives you the back end. So the first is getting recovery, then it's living in recovery. So how do you get recovery, and then how do you live? That's the question, right? Because a lot of people don't think you can have fun in recovery. I'll tell you right now, Ashley and I have a ton of fun. You know, when I first met Wayne, he never laughed the way he laughs today, right? You have to have fun in recovery, right? So the back end of the 90 teaches you about isolation, teaches you about how to live, teaches you how to The truth was, I didn't know how to do my laundry. I know that sounds silly, but I didn't. I didn't do my laundry when I was in active addiction. I didn't know how to pay bills. I didn't know how to go get a job. I didn't know how to live. I didn't know how to clean my apartment. These are things I didn't know how to do. So you have to teach yourself how to do it. So that's the back end. We also have a journey journal, which journaling is very important to journal down where you're at, what you're doing. It's goal driven, right? So we have SMART goals. And when you have SMART goals, you stay accountable to yourself. So a big thing for people in recovery is staying accountable to themselves and actually hitting their dreams and their goals. And when you hit your dreams and goals, small or big, it's an accomplishment, right? So you always got to take a look at the wins versus the losses, right? I always say life is tough, but you know, suffering's an option, right? I can suffer, that's an option. But I know that life is going to be tough, and it's going to be as tough as I want it to be. So I then started rolling it out to Kenora. And Kenora was a little bit on the edgy side with me with it. I don't really know why, but they were a little on the edgy side. They accepted it, and I started helping some people. And then I got myself in an organization where I started to help people like Wayne and Leland, and started seeing mass success in such a short period of time, with people coming from the institutional level, going to another level, to then trying to go to life. What I know, when I was in the institutional level at KDJ, asking for help, they just basically told me there was none. And there was periods of my life in before 2008, where I had asked for help. The help wasn't there. So when I'm told that there's no help, what am I going to typically do? I'm going to leave, and I'm going to commit to the same behavior I had when I went in, but it could get worse. That's what I'm going to do. So then, all or nothing at the meeting on December 29th, and talked about recovery and what was missing in Kenora. And that's kind of where things have changed in the avenues of people wanting to listen now about recovery. Les started reaching out. I got with Andy, the Three Stooges. And talking to Andrew and Ferg also about all this stuff. They're no secret on this. And also them helping, right? They've helped me. And they've been there of support for me, which is great. You know, Kenora is not all doom and gloom. It's not. There is a lot of hope for Kenora. There's a lot of change for Kenora. You might not just see it today. There's a lot of things that we can do here to make our city the way we want to make our city. And the fact that we have support on all levels is great. Where that support goes, I don't know yet. But what I do know is it's all moving forward in a positive direction. So I'm a guy that always focuses on the positive, not the negative. I already know what's going on up there. We got to figure out how to change it and change it together, right? So I'm hoping that in the next, 3 to 6 months, Hype Recovery gets funded and we're able to help people in Kenora. That's my hope. I know that we're going in the right direction. I know that we're talking to the right people. I know that those right people believe what I'm telling them. So all I can hope is that it goes through, and that now we're able to help more people than what we're helping today. Are we helping people today? Yes, we're helping people today. But we want to help more people because we need to help more people. There needs to be more options. So that's HYPE. Any questions on HYPE? It stands for Help Your Personal Effort. Then I'm going to get into our mental health platform that we got going on, which is
So did you make a presentation to the city, to the province, to the federal government?
Yep, so
What was there?
So I did. I made a 27-page proposal and sent it in. I sent it into the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions.
That's
Yeah, and they're looking at it, and that's all I can say on that one. I'm proud they're looking at it. That's a huge step.
It needs to start somewhere.
Right, so taking footsteps forward on it. The truth is, it is my business, so I can't help 500 people and try and pay my rent. That just doesn't happen. That's why I need the funding, so that they understand that we can help people.
What's the city's?
Cities supports me,
They do.
yeah.
Financially as well? Like, are
Not
they-
financially today, they don't support me, but I'm hoping that they will, yes.
Yeah,
We gotta start somewhere.
absolutely.
So I'm grateful that I'm here to say that we're starting at our second meeting. You know, we had 10 people in the last one, more than 10 people today. And I know that we're moving forward, so I feel positive. I want to keep the meetings going because I think it's very important for our area. I think it's very important to have people like Cal speak and the people that we're helping in the program. Anybody else?
How do you help people? Is it all individual, is it online, or is it,
So it's
like
both.
I-
So it's both.
wouldn't it be nice to have a building where people could go?
Okay, well-
Stay as long as they need it,
You don't need to talk about my.
there?
I just want to say something.
Yeah.
This was a start, you know what, from going from 10 to get an awareness. And you know, I heard comments of people walking out that we misinformed them. The part is to get people here today to start talking about the situation in Northwestern Ontario. I'm talking with Thompson, who are doing the same things. And you know, from everything going on, there's not one right solution. There isn't, but people will start talking, and you know, down at the Nietzsche Center, and all the community organizations I go to visit, we need to work together. That's where we've missed the boat, where we can get on the boat to start talking about the problems we have and how to fix them. This is one solution. There may be 10 others. When I'm talking to all of Ontario or all of Canada, this isn't one-off. Go ahead.
I just want to highlight some of the really good things you said today. One, I think this is a massive solution. There isn't recovery in Kenora. So thank you for doing this. But some things that you highlighted, one, you really transformed when you took personal agency. You said, like, when I had to actually invest in myself and take it seriously, we need to highlight that personal agency is a huge part of recovery. So too many people, I like that you said we need people coming together, because people make this a left versus right issue, and all these people are working individually, and that is a huge problem. So there's a book called Agency. It's not true that people can just pull up their bootstraps and get over it and get over their addictions and move on. It's also not true that we can just love people into changing and just give and give and give. It's both. First, there's support. But if at some point the support doesn't say, you have to take responsibility for your life, then people don't get better. So this is a massive solution. What I want to highlight is, people keep saying, what is Vancouver doing that's working? Nothing. I lived in BC for 15 years, nothing. That man could not answer my question because everything has gotten worse since harm reduction. So I want to highlight that there is no statistical evidence showing that harm reduction decreases crime, decreases overdoses, or makes things better. What you're showing me today is you have outcomes. You have positive outcomes. You have people that are getting better. So we need to look at the things that are working, where we have outcomes, and keep doing that. What Kenora keeps doing is praising intention. Well, we have really good intentions, and we keep praising that. We keep praising the $1 million facility that we're building, the programs that we're developing, but then when I stand up and ask the question, is it working? And people can't provide answers, we need to stop doing those things. And we're vilifying the people like me that ask questions, is it working? If it's not working, we need to stop doing it. This sounds like it's working. We should not be talking to people in Vancouver or San Francisco about what's working, because it's not. There are places where things are working, and I want to highlight what, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Earl.
Earl. What Earl says is also correct. This is a huge piece that we're missing. In places where it's working, in Portugal and in many places in Europe, the thing that we're missing is consequences. It is love and consequences, and that's what we're missing in Kenora. This is where he's saying, untie the police's hands. When the police went forward and said that we needed that, it was like a solicitation bill where they could go and break up groups of people that were potentially going to cause trouble, and then people revolted and they said, you're ticketing homelessness. That actually was a solution to start disrupting some groups of people that were going to get together, that the police knew had just gotten out of jail, that would cause harm, and we're not letting the police do that. So in places like Portugal, yes, they decriminalized drugs, yes, they made safe injection sites. You also can't be on the street shooting up, you also can't commit crime. When that happens, they take people and they say, do you want to have an intervention with your family? Do you want to go into recovery? But here we don't have those things. We don't have recovery. So yes, huge piece, but I want to keep that conversation open about what harm reduction is doing. What our safe injection sites did not prevent AIDS. AIDS is worse now. It did not prevent crime. Crime is worse. We're gathering more criminals in Kenora. More people are coming to Kenora. We need to look at that as an outcome and say, stop doing that. So we live rurally. I closed my business downtown because my 6-year-old was going and putting her hands in the mailbox and there were needles in it. At 6 a.m. when I was opening up the yoga studio, there were guys outside with their pants around their ankles saying that they were going to rape me and feed me to my dogs. When I brought that up to city council, people called me a racist. That man was white, by the way, who did that. So we do need businesses working together with cities, social services working with police, instead of it being, like in Kenora, businesses against social services, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, because all of this shit takes money. And right now downtown is crushed. It's not safe, businesses are leaving. We need money to be able to do this thing. So if we don't make downtown safe, the missing piece is pressure and inconvenience to do drugs. Yes, love, yes, care, yes, support. But in Portugal, in Europe, they make it uncomfortable and challenging to do drugs. They make it inconvenient. So that, what you said is also correct, but you're right, it is all these pieces. Recovery, yes, inconvenience and pressure not to do drugs. We can't make it so easy for people. And also what you're saying is beautiful about the facility, teaching people to love themselves and to bring in cultural healing. Those are solutions. What the health unit is doing, that's making things 100% worse.
I think one of the big things that we're missing here, I worked with youth for the last 15 years. The youth hub and that, youth did not sign up and have the youth hub on Main Street. When they were questioned about it, they said the last place they wanted to have it on was Main Street because they were terrified of it. Yet the big wigs from Toronto come in and that's where it went. It's that you have to start listening to the very people who it's impacting, who you're trying to deal with. And hear them, not just listen to them, but you gotta hear them. You gotta hear their stories. You gotta hear who they are and what they've gone through. Because they all think that everybody's painted them with one paintbrush, and it's not so.
So you'll see a piece of paper that's going around. That's also another.
Another question.
Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to kind of go with what you were saying as well. I get that we need recovery. Like, I get that we need beds because working in the hospital, we're finding we're running out of beds because we're dealing with people coming in who are inebriated or they've got drugs on board, and we have nowhere to put anybody else who is also having a medical emergency. But my question is, if we're going to do something like this, which I agree, we need recovery because there isn't really anywhere to go after, does it have to be downtown? Because everywhere you look downtown, it's like there's groups, and there's groups here, and there's groups there. And it's next to businesses, and it's like we're letting it's easier to stay in town where they can go to the liquor store, where they can get their drugs, as opposed to, are you looking at places that maybe are sort of out of town, which is kind of making it a little more inconvenient for people to get their drugs or get their booze? I'm just asking, like, is that a possibility? Like, I mean, to get them, like, sort of out of the environment that keeps cycling.
Well, when somebody is in therapy, some of the therapy needs to come from within, right? So when you step out of, let's say, counseling downtown, and you're feeling good about your talk, and then you walk outside and you see everything that you're seeing, it's throwing you right back, just to a certain extent, whereas if, you know, everybody talks highly about Strecker Farms, it's beautiful, right? Maybe not there, but a place like that where when you step outside, maybe you go sit against a tree for a while and just reflect.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I'll do a little comment. And again, we've only been involved in this a couple of months to get people's attention. I have personally gone to look for buildings that would be appropriate to house a recovery place. And you know what? You're dealt at a nil.
Well, that's not true. I have a property. Ferg knows I have a property. It's called 18 Sunnyside Road, where the fish plant is. And the fish plant is no longer open, and I presented a way long time ago to have mini homes out there and transition people back into traditional labor through the fish plant. At that time, it was looked at, but it didn't go any farther than that. I still have that property today. It is up for sale, but I do have that property today, and my mind has always said that it's far enough out of town, it's on Sunnyside Road, it's got everything there to even transition in. I mean, the other components to Hype, which I never talked about, was I am a chef, so we do have a nutritional part inside of there. So we teach people about nutrition, from the vitamin side to the mineral side to, I teach people how to cook. So a lot of people don't know how to cook. A lot of people don't know how to eat right. A lot of people don't even know how to make anything. So I teach them that component as well. Easy, simple recipes, easy, simple nutrition, how to take proper nutrition, how to supplement yourself if you're not getting the right thing. We also have the active lifestyle part. So we have the active lifestyle part where right now we utilize Ivar's Gym. You will see I did send around a piece of paper. That is Shooters. That is Shooters. We do utilize Ivar's Gym upstairs, and we do easy breathing, easy exercising, easy just to go and get away and be. Now I know you're probably going, Shooters. Now I had to pick a building downtown because I wanted to pick a building downtown. And I went, well, what if we cleaned up Matheson Street? What if we cleaned up Matheson Street and made that place lit up, made that place vibrant, made that place colorful, put cameras all around it so that it could be monitored on, you know, the old back alley where the Manitoba border is, where a lot of activity happens, where we could help the police with the camera. That's where my mind went. My mind also went with, there's 7 different places inside that building to have active recovery, meaning that the Eagle's Nest could turn into the Hype Recovery Coaching, meaning that the gym upstairs could get converted and we could do active lifestyle. We're already doing it there. Meaning that the kitchen could turn into a community kitchen, because what we used to do in Ottawa with us people that were getting into recovery is we would take tasks every single day, from prepping, cooking, making the menu, going shopping, all that stuff, because it gave me purpose. It gave me meaning. And the public actually came in and ate our food. People came in and paid $35 for a 3-course meal from a criminal! Can you believe that? And guess what? When they left, they went, my God, you guys are making change. So the kitchen's there to do that. You take Shooters, you wipe it out, you call it the Sober Lounge. There's a hard place to find a place to have a meeting downtown, I'll tell you that right now. So you have seminars in there, you have workshops in there, you have presentations in there, you have educational stuff in there, you have mental health workers in there. I know you see ibogaine on there, that's a new thing. I don't want to get too far into that because it's just scratched the surface. Then you have the bowling alley, that is activities. I just paint that picture because everybody says out of town. I'm not opposed to out of town. But you're not going to move everybody out of town, because you move people out of town to come back to town. I got recovery right down in the heart of Ottawa on George Street, the Salvation Army Anchorage Boost Center. I looked outside, I saw people shooting up. I looked outside, I saw crack. I looked outside, I saw. Sometimes, you made a very good point, you have to have it on the inside. And you have to want it, and you have to have the support there. And when you have the support there like I had, I got the change. I wanted the change. I needed the change. So, do we put it downtown to relive and light up the city? I think it's a pretty good idea, myself. But that's just me.
I mean, this does look good. What I had a meeting.
It's
with
just a quick sketch.
I had a meeting with the city when I closed my business, and I said, like, Kenor's not Ottawa. Kenora is tiny.
Yeah.
And I said, why, in this tiny little town, tourists go to 2 streets, Main and Second.
Yeah.
They don't know what Lakeside is, they don't know what all these neighborhoods are, there's 2 streets. And on these 2 streets, we put, like Henricia, the homeless shelter, the youth drop-in center, they had Johnny Greck's place. So you drive through Kenora, boom, 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 like it's nothing but social services. Kenora needs a lot of social services, but putting them in the quarter, like those 2 streets, was the worst city planning I've ever heard. And when I met with the city and the councilors and the Chamber of Commerce, I said, why wouldn't you protect just these 2 streets as shopping and dining and actually allow businesses to flourish? Because our town needs money to make all these things happen. Where right now, everyone is evacuating Kenora like no tomorrow because of some of this planning. So it doesn't have to necessarily be at the Strecker Farm, but yeah, a block away, 2 blocks away.
Hey, Jay?
Yeah.
Also, when you were in Ottawa,
Yeah.
when you walked out on the street, you didn't have family and friends that were also struggling. And there's a lot of people in this town, good people, who have friends and family that are struggling as well. So, you know, that's where I look at that and think, man, you know, I just feel bad for those people who are going through that, who have to walk back out in the streets and have stuff right in their face.
So the one thing is when I landed in Ottawa and I got off, first I didn't think I was ever gonna eat again, so I got 6 hamburgers, because I never went to treatment before. They let me off at the homeless shelter, which was right beside Anchorage. And I went, how am I, like, Sandy Paul sent me here. How am I supposed to survive here? I mean, I got out of the cab, you want crack, you want crack? That's what it was. I was like, what is going on? So I go there and I say, is this the treatment center? Oh, no, it's down the street. I was like, okay, good. Well, literally 20 feet next to it is the Anchorage Blues Center. But my point being, I agree with you on that one. If I didn't see it, it wouldn't have kept me away from it.
And I agree, you gotta also have it there.
So I always went to the frontline meetings. I went to the Shepherds of Good Hope frontline meeting, right in the heart of which is another shelter in Ottawa. It's around the bend from the Anchorage, right? I went there. I walk in, I see everything going on. I'm reminded of what's going on, right? I don't want to live there, but I need to be reminded, because I don't want to go there, right? I don't have another chance. There is no other chance. No, it may be 15 years plus, there's no other chance. I know what works. I do agree with you on that. I think we need to hit it from the heart of the city. Our city is suffering right now. I think we need to hit it at the heart of the city. I think there needs to be something downtown. I think we need to liven up one area. We need to color it up. We need to bring in love. And I think it's an option.
Well, because it's both, it's businesses and social services.
Yes.
And like you said, you needed to create a bright and prosperous future for yourself. Right now, most people are avoiding I moved out of Kenora, I closed my business, I don't participate in town. Most people feel the same. So if there's nothing worth fighting for downtown as well, it's gonna be.
Well, thank you for coming out.
Yes, but I just, you know what I mean? If
Yeah.
town, it's both.
Yeah.
Yes, social service, like, I'm not saying kick everybody out to the Strecker Farm, but we also have to like protect and grow downtown businesses. When I first opened my business 10 years ago, town was beautiful. There were all these cool shops and restaurants and young people moving back to Kenora. People are evacuating fast. Like my 2 little girls are 10 and 13. I let them drive their own boat and sled across all of Lake of the Woods. I won't let them go to Main Street by themselves. I let them take motorized vehicles out all day long on the lake, no problem. It's not safe for you to go downtown right now. So I'm just drawing attention to that because we need a holistic approach that involves
Exactly, and that's
treatment,
where,
police,
right, and that's where
consequences,
Alicia's
love.
coming in with the culture side of things.
I'm gonna be approaching Grand Council Treaty Treat for their, with this idea, but then to put it on Round Lake. The drum healing lodge on Round Lake. Isn't that great?
Yeah, so that's another, so I guess really why we wanted to do this is that there is some things in the air, there is some things going, and I think that it's important that the public knows that there is recovery, right? That there is options, that we are working on things. I mean, it does take an army to do this.
Question, and then you gotta wrap up.
Yeah, I'll just touch on this one. What time?
It's getting to the
Oh,
hour.
wow. Yes, go ahead, Jack.
Sorry for being late.
No, no worries. I'm glad you came. Thank you.
I'm not opposed to safe consumption sites, I'm not opposed to people getting help. But I, as a business person in town, I also agree that I'm on the verge of making a choice of do I shut down or not? Because it's getting bad. And a point has to be come to head with all the groups, not just one or two or three or four, but all the groups. And the businesses, and the people who live downtown and outside of town. Bring them all in, let's have a meeting, talk, see what's best. And if it's at Round Lake, that's fantastic. If it's downtown, I don't know. But something's gotta be done. And there are people who do want help, fantastic, let's get them help. People who don't want help, let's ease into it perhaps down the road, I don't know. But a solution's gotta be fixed, found and fixed.
Okay,
So
question, Platt? Burgundy.
It's more kind of a statement. Coming from an addict's perspective, if you make it inconvenient for me, I'm not gonna waste my time. You know, I've lived in Minto and I've said to myself, oh, I can walk all the way into town and get clean needles from the detox, or I can grab a knife sharpener and I can sharpen this needle right now and use it. I've been lucky that I've never had any STI before, but if you make it an inconvenience where I gotta go all the way to Stratford Farm, I'm probably not gonna follow through with it. That's the reality. I don't even know what it is, I'm not from here originally. I'm E3. Well, okay, yeah, that would be a little bit better, but again, you'd come to where your organization would be heavily, heavily needed to get out there, to have people, motor transportations, assistance from people like you guys and counseling and stuff. But, yeah, if you make it too far out of town, no one's gonna go for it.
And that was my comment as well, having been involved in his life as long as I have been and supporting him, that transportation is going to be an issue. These people are living on the streets, they can't just jump on a bus or get in a cab and go, you know, so they need access.
That's why I threw, that's why I threw.
Massive program like that would have to have.
Yeah.
One question from
I saw Andrew had his hand up. Woo, yeah.
Okay, so I have two comments. So the first one here is, as my position as mayor in the city and part of council. So next Wednesday, we have a notice of motion. It goes to what you were saying, because at one time, the downtown core was protected, and for whatever reasons, and for retail. So if you were a retail business, you could not sell it to this group or that group, and it had to be retail, or something along those lines. And for whatever reason, that was lost. And I'm not saying we have bad results, but we have the results, the intended consequences that someone wanted are there now. And I'm not suggesting these organizations aren't worthwhile. I'm not doing that. So next Wednesday, there's a notice of motion going before council, whether it pushes it forward or not, to look at the downtown, the zone, and we're not sure all the boundaries, but if you're in retail and you go to sell your business, you know, or sell the building and that, it has to go back to retail and that, because if you don't have a downtown, and I talk to mayors all the time, and I've been to communities in Northwest Ontario where the downtowns are non-existent for whatever reason, and that's the reality. But if we don't have a downtown, we don't, and thriving businesses, as a tourist destination that we're trying to be part of, as part of our economic recovery and as part of our economy, we don't have a community anymore. And I'll sit and take bullets for that. That's the reality. This is through a lot of years of being on council and talking to mayors and talking to councillors, and not just in Northwest Ontario, everywhere across the country now. I reach out to mayors of similar sized communities on a regular basis, and we all talk about the same problems. Yeah. So first of all, we are looking to do that. Now where it lands as a council, I'm not going to speak on behalf of my 6 colleagues and how they would vote for something, but it's another piece that's a step in the right direction. Now will it turn back the clock? No, but it'll stop the bleeding of businesses, and hopefully people will see that we're taking a vested interest in the downtown core, And we want to have some retail down there because I go down and shop there all the time.
But do you know why it got shut down when I proposed that? Everyone was in agreement, well, I can tell you why, everyone was in agreement except for the city councilors who pretended like, or not, sorry, not the planners.
But
Planners,
yeah.
just wait, the planners, because they said, well, I've never heard of that before. But what actually happened is, right before then, was when the police tried to put forward that bill, and then the city got slapped with a human rights violation. Then all the councillors got scared. They said, if we do this, it means we're being discriminatory, saying that there's a nice area town or a bad area town, and everyone was too scared that it was gonna mean something about them morally. And that's, you had a lot of young councillors, they were too scared that someone would call them a name or make it a moral issue. When it's not a moral issue, it's a practical reality of life, that we do need a flourishing downtown for money to also support our social services. So maybe that's something that you can bring up, because that's what people were scared of. It would mean something about them morally if they did that.
So, yeah, and we can talk about that after, but my other point as a taxpayer, because that's why I came here today, not representing council, but as a taxpayer and a citizen of Kenora who moved back here years ago and plan on staying here. I'm not giving up, and it really pains me when I hear people say this, this has happened, and Kenora's no more, Kenora's no more. Okay, well, what are your solutions? And I'm stepping up as mayor, and let me tell you, I'm taking bullets every day for things that are going on in the downtown, whether it's a result of something I did or it's there. People need to get out and see what the hell's going on in the rest of this world, because there's too many people that don't leave this community. It is bad out there. I travel quite a bit in Northwest Ontario, and I've been to worse places, let me tell you. That doesn't mean we can't do something to make it better, and I'm going to be part of that. But we have to start asking ourselves questions, and again, this goes back as a taxpayer. There are so many agencies and organizations in this community, and I can't even figure out myself, sitting at City Hall, what everybody does and how everybody connects together. Now, until we start asking those questions, when you go to government, they will tell you, and I've heard it time and time again, oh, Kenora and that, they've got money for this, they've got money for that. Collectively, if we sat down and worked together as organizations and put, whoever you are aside, whoever you represent, if we collectively put that energy and work together, we will have better results. There's money out there, and it's there for when we talk about if it's a safe injection site or whatever, and I have my own opinion on that. But recovery and bail beds and all those other things, the money's here right now in the community, millions of dollars, and we should have a prototype of the best facilities almost in Ontario per capita. The money is here. We need to stop working in silos, and we start to need to work together and have those critical conversations. Because I've had lots of them, and I've been very point blank with organizations and that. Don't talk about this one over here, because you don't even know what they're doing over here, because I don't know what you're doing over here. And there has to be that connection, not to take away from your program, Jay, but there's things we can do here right now that will bring about those changes that you're looking for and connecting all the dots. We are not doing that, and it's been going on for eons now, and when I hear it, that we don't have funding for this, we don't have this, we don't have that, it drives me crazy, because we need to educate people more on what we actually have here and how we need to all come together and work.
And hold them accountable to outcomes.
Thank you. Jay has to wrap up, because it's almost 1:00.
Exactly. For outcomes, not their intention.
Yeah.
If they're not producing outcomes, let's stop bleeding money into those facets.
But there are a lot of good organizations.
We'll have another.
So the one thing I want to just close on quick, we are doing Empower to Recover, which is our live mental health. Thank you, Andrew. That was very nice of you. live mental health event starting in BC with a dream to do 10 cities across Canada. It is all lived experience. We do want to come to Kenora with it, and I am talking with people to bring it to Kenora. It's going to be a 2-day event where the first day is going to be workshops that are put on by lived experience people. And these organizations that you talk about, Andrew, are going to be invited. Those employees are going to be invited to this so that we understand who the organizations are and what are you doing and how are you doing it. Because if I have a client and I can't help him, where do I point him? How does he get the help or her get the help? So that's day 1, and then day 2 is the actual event where we have some pretty high-profile people coming forward right now to speak for us. I'm sure you all know Beatrice Love. She's on Canada's Got Talent, and we got Theo Fleury, and we got a whole bunch of other people that are speaking with us, and Ashley and I. But that is coming here as well. So I wanted to just bring this to you guys. I know we're starting somewhere. I'm proud we're starting somewhere. I'm proud that you two came. I'm proud that everybody is here that came, because we needed to start somewhere. We need to do something together. We need to come together, like Chad says. The silos have to break. We have to come together and work. The money is here. I know the money's here. I see the money every day. I know it's here. The problem is, how do we get the money to the right people? That's it, right? So I thank everybody for coming today. There is a thing going around of that there, wherever it is. You can sign that if you'd like. And then we'll be having another meeting.
Date to be determined. I just want to say, you know what, it's a start. Like Andrew said, the more and more people we get out, that we have the knowledge in Kenora and awesome questions, because everybody's concerned. And you know what? 3 will turn into 10, will turn into 20. We'll coordinate what we need to do with the help of the provincial, federal, and municipal governments. And there will be hard questions for Andrew, for Ferg, for Mr. Rickford, and that's okay. And that the hard questions have to be asked and answered. So again, thank you for coming out today. If there's any questions, I think there's emails that we can send out. It's a start. It's absolutely a start to building and rebuilding Kenora. So thank you.